Hi, everyone. Welcome to Ecstatic Academy. Welcome, Bill. This is the channel where you learn everything you might want to know and a lot of things you may not want to know about Tantra and sexuality. Oh, don't look nervous.
Oh no!
Let's talk about sex, baby.
Hey, this is my first sex show.
Oh, there has to be a first for everything,
It does.
right? So you're a virgin.
Yes,
That's good.
for this.
Yes.
Yes.
I know this is a very phallic microphone, isn't it?
Right, we're ready to go.
Oh, so what is your question about Tantra and or sex and, anything?
Well, the
Well,
first
not anything,
not anything.
but within that realm. Yeah.
Oh,
I just wanted to fake you out like I was going to
all right.
interrupt
Here's
you
the
again.
question.
It is a question.
It is.
Okay.
Can you describe why a man who goes out and suffers, not in a pitiful kind of way, but
Hmm.
goes out and suffers, why that would, like a woman would find that hot versus a guy that lives like a cushy, comfortable life?
Okay. So are you basing this on your own experience?
I might
You might be. Is this a
Because it is all about it. I mean, in my head, it's all about me.
I know, it's all about
you.
me.
Right.
This show is all about me.
It
Don't
is.
forget it. Don't forget. Well, that's interesting. I mean, it's an interesting perspective. I don't know that if you asked women in general, if they would necessarily agree with that, but we're going to talk about the tantric perspective, and I'm going to see, because I think I know what you're talking about. It's not about suffering, right? Well, I mean, let's
Not in a
let's
Buddhist
define
sense.
your
Okay.
terminology.
He voluntarily puts himself through trials, like Goggins, right?
Oh, you've got Goggins.
I got Goggins on the brain, right? He trains
He's a good
really
guy.
hard. He builds roofs.
Yeah,
He lifts weights after he, pours concrete, kind of thing.
yeah.
You know,
And when you say cushy job,
medium versus a guy that sits behind a computer screen and say pedals on a
cushy
bicycle.
sounds, yeah.
Yeah.
Huh. Okay. Well, I could see that, right? Because, and we're talking about tantric energy. It's really divided up into the feminine and the masculine, or as I like to call it, the solar and the lunar, right? So obviously that right there is a prime example of maybe an extreme solar David Goggins. We would definitely call him extreme in that sense, and someone who's maybe not so much. So, I mean, there's excuse me, there's even some psychological and biological research based on that too. That women are attracted to more of a warrior type, right? For the good of the species, I guess. I don't know. It's all conjecture, right? But from a tantric perspective, um, you would be, I don't know if you could say all women, because all of us are a blend of both the solar and the lunar qualities, right? But I think that, um, someone who's more like David Goggins, of extreme solar, pushing himself against limits, is not only attractive to a very feminine or lunar type of energy, but also other masculine energies, right? Which is probably why his book is such a bestseller.
Right.
Because I'm pretty sure most people buying his book are men. So there's something to be said about that. I mean, I think that's an extreme example, but it's really relevant, right? Because that is an extremely solar perspective, right? To push yourself. I haven't read the book, but I've heard some of the crazy things that he's done on there, and that's about testing yourself, right? And that would be a very solar thing to do. So I think it would be very attractive, for the polarity, for a very feminine type person would be attracted to because you always want to have that polarity. And the more polarity you have, the more spicy. You know, the sexier it is the more polarity. And we all exist on a spectrum. I mean, there may be days where you wake up and you think you're David Goggins, you know, you feel like that.
You lace them up and you're ready to go.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah. And that would be you being in your very solar. And then when maybe you're burnt out and you need to recharge, then you can go into your lunar and maybe do a little meditating or some yoga or, you know, stretch your body out, because we are both and we need both. And I think that's a big mistake that people who talk a lot about feminine and masculine energies, you know, and that's why I don't even like using that terminology, because they're like, well, I'm female, so I'm supposed to be a girl, and so that means I should be more feminine. And you and what you end up is this cultural cliche of how you're supposed to be. Like, I should wear more florals and my hair should be longer and maybe you should put some flowers in it, you know? And really it's about the energy, and we all need to be both for different reasons. Where you really want to play up the polarity is in relationships, especially in sexual relationships and intimacy. Because what happens to people, you can start out very polarized, right? But over time, what happens is those two energies, if you're not careful in keeping it alive, they tend to kind of balance each other out. And that's why relationships kind of fizzle sexually. You become just like buddies, you're great friends, because nobody's paying attention to the polarity anymore. You know, you forget to be that guy, you know. And so
polarity is like,
yeah, so we're assuming that you want to be a masculine guy and you're attracted to a feminine partner, right?
Right.
Because it doesn't matter what bodies we're in, you know, that's what we're looking for. So if you want a very feminine partner, then you're going to have to enhance that solar energy power when you're around. And that's about taking charge, planning things, moving ahead. The solar energy is very much about moving things forward, right? The lunar energy, it's reflective, just like the moon. The moon doesn't project anything of itself. It reflects the energy that's going on around it. Okay. So if you're very much in your masculine, then, you know, or your solar, then the feminine energies around you are just going to relax and be happy, right? And
for polarity, do you think conflict fits into polarity? Is that a part of it?
Conflict is a part of polarity.
In other words, like, you know, sometimes a good old fashioned knockdown, drag out.
Well, let's be careful with knockdown, drag out.
Okay, all right. So
caveman.
Okay, all right. All right. So, but when when Peterson talks about agreeable, right? If everybody's agreeable and nobody wants to sort of
that's where it happens. Like in long-term relationships, right? People. So when you get polarity in long-term relationships, when people aren't happy, right? The only time sometimes you get polarity is when you fight, right?
Right.
And so if you're fighting a lot in your relationship, maybe it's not what you're fighting about. It's somebody wants the polarity. And generally, it's the feminine. Or the lunar. I'm going to try to get rid of that terminology. Right. It's 20 years of teaching. But that's the lunar energy fluctuates, and it likes movement, and it likes change, and the solar energy is steady. And so, it might happen that the more lunar energy flares up against that steady solar energy. And then that would be when you have conflict, because the lunar doesn't care. It doesn't want peace and quiet. The solar energy wants that. We're here, and
so wait, you're saying men
we're
just want to be
here.
left alone? Is that what you're saying?
I'm trying not to use masculine,
Okay,
feminine,
okay,
because
okay.
it.
All right, well, for knuckle draggers like me. Okay, please continue. Let me not interrupt.
Yeah, yeah. So the solar energy very much wants steady, constant. That's the way the solar energy works. The mistake you're making is you're thinking that's men and this is women. It's not about the bodies we inhabit, because we're both of us. I am masculine and feminine, solar and lunar. You're masculine, feminine, solar and lunar. That's why I try not to use those words, because people get really caught up in it. You're like, this is my gender. This is the body parts I have. So I should be this way, right? But we're not. That's the thing. That label is not really effective. I mean, sometimes they use yin and yang, and they're complementary. But the yin or the lunar energy is disruptive, and the other is stable. The yang and the solar energy is stable. So yeah, if things are a little too calm, if things are a little boring, somebody's
gonna pull the fire alarm.
Yeah, gonna flare up, which is good, because the opposite of that in a relationship. So let's just, for this example, use a man and a woman, right? A husband and wife. Things have gotten into a rut. They're not having sex very often. He comes home from work. He's tired. She's tired. Turn on the TV. There's zero polarity, right? So somebody's got to start a fight. Typically, it'll be whoever or whatever lunar energy, the yin energy is flaring up, because it fights that, right? And so let's say it's the woman, but if she doesn't speak, if she doesn't allow herself to speak, because maybe she's intimidated, or maybe it hasn't worked out before, then what happens is she's like, I'm not going to say anything, because what difference does it make? Then that's when resentment starts. When you have resentment, it's one of the first, and sometimes if you catch it early enough, it's easy to flip it, right? But if you're a guy, you're the man, the woman, if you feel things going kind of flatlining between you and there's no flare-ups, you're in big trouble, because there's probably resentment. And if you ignore that,
it becomes contempt.
It becomes contempt, and then it's all downhill from there. You may stay together, you may never get divorced, but those are the first two stages. And if you just, because the solar energy wants to be just like, oh, don't rock the boat. Let's just, keep things stable on an even keel, right? But what you should be doing is going, okay, things seem a little too safe here. That's probably good, especially if you're also not having sex, or if the sex is brief and not so, because sometimes people will just have sex just to
check a box.
Yeah, check a box, or break the tension, or go to sleep, or whatever. But you're not really shifting the state. You just have this momentary, and then everybody relaxes again, right? So what you should be doing is saying, you need to shift the energy however you can, But yeah, you should be saying, hey, is everything all right? It's like, and poke, bring up the hard subjects. and be prepared to blow up, you know, or to have it blow up. And that's okay. Because if you're comfortable enough in your solar energy, your yang energy, right? If you're comfortable enough, then whatever goes on with the yin and the lunar, it doesn't phase you. You know, you can just take it in and go, oh, that's, you know, because the yin and the lunar energy, it changes all the time. So, you know, it's Tuesday and someone stubbed their toe and the world is ending, you know, and it's Wednesday and the sun is out and let's go to the pool and they're happy. That's how the lunar energy is. It's totally in the moment. It can change every 30 minutes. It doesn't matter, you know, and how the solar or the yang, you know, looks at that as like, oh my God, this person is crazy. But it's not. That's how that energy is supposed to be. And we all have it. It's just, you know, on a sliding scale. And sometimes it depends on different days, right?
Okay.
So you should be, we'll talk hetero here. So if you're a man, you should be poking your woman one way or the other.
Don't be afraid to start a fight.
Don't start a fight. I think I don't like that language.
Okay.
But because it seems overly aggressive. Poke, just poke and pry until you get to the core and she opens up for you, because the beauty is in the opening, right? The lunar is all about that. The yin is all about the opening and the blossoming, right? So if she's closed down tight, you better know how to poke her one way or the other. Someone's got to be poking that woman, because if you're not poking her, someone else
will.
Someone else will. That's right. If you can't open her up, someone else will. It could be anything, you know. I mean, it could be the children. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's not always sexual. The energy is not always about sex. But if you want to have really great sex, then you better learn to poke her. Get her to open up. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what it is that you do, but change up the routine. Pull up your big girl panties, no matter how you feel, and make it work. And I'm not just, you know, you're just asking me for advice, right? But there's a lot of that. I'm not saying this is all the responsibility of the masculine. It's the responsibility of whoever notices, you know, because somebody has to do something. And don't be afraid of fighting at all. At all. I mean, you're talking about David Goggins, right? So why would you be, you know, go through Navy SEALs training, but you're going to be afraid of having a few words with someone that you care about? You're going to be afraid they're angry with you? You know, go bury yourself to here in mud, you know, and let her kick you in the face. I don't care, you know, whatever works for you.
Right.
But really, like, you can go through that kind of stuff, but emotionally, it can be just overwhelming. You have to look at it like that. It's all just energy. And the same energy that you use to overcome everything else, you can use it in a positive way for this, you know?
Right. Yeah. Interesting. I heard him on Rogan.
Yeah.
You know, he was talking about family and relationships in his life. And he's just like, here's how this works. I'm going to give you everything you need or want. And then I'm going to go over here and do what I have to do and run until I fall down.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, that's not surprising given what you just said, that maybe he's had a few wives or girlfriends in his life, right? Because you can't just set somebody up with a Lexus and then ignore her. Or ignore the other person.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, then you're using your partner in that case as a kind of a sex toy, if that's the case. I don't know. I have no idea.
Right. Not trying to get sued here.
I don't know. But yeah, if you're, you know, I think there's a balance, right? I mean, unfortunately, in our society today, we expect a lot out of our partner. So in a way, I kind of agree with him, but you can't be the ghost, that only shows up when there's food or fucking. I mean,
Right.
there's a balance, and I think it's important for both people in a relationship to have, friends that give you experiences that fill up your buckets. We all have need buckets, right?
Right.
But your partner should be more than just a sex partner for you. One would hope. I mean, this is not necessarily. I mean, this is just my relationship perspective. Because in Tantra, it really wouldn't matter. But um, but for relationship purposes, I think it's probably good. Because although a lot of masculine people or highly solarized people would probably think that's great, a lot of them suffer from, the wounded warrior syndrome, like we're still very old fashioned, and this is truly just a Western perspective, right? But this, I go out and earn the money and bring home the bacon, and you should just be happy, right? And I don't think there's very many partners who think that that's okay, and a lot of that may just be the way that we're raised.